good evening. Thank you for choosing to watch this cozy baking video. Today we are going to be baking these delicious blueberry muffins from scratch. I have baked this recipe several times and it's my all-time favorite. I filmed this video on a whim. I was going to make these muffins anyways, and last minute I decided to pull out my camera and my microphone. You can see it on my shirt here. And even though I had my kids around and they were talking and making some noise, I was reminded of a comment that someone left on one of my videos once. I believe it was one of my Dollar Tree videos where I was shopping at the Dollar Tree, and they said they liked hearing the background noise because it made them feel as if they were really there. So I decided to try this out. So yes, I left all of the background noises in the video deliberately. So if you liked that touch, please let me know in the comments. I still want to be able to make content for you all, but it's just, since I am a stay-at-home homeschooling mom, I pretty much always have my kids with me. So, and we all know that kids will be kids, so they can be a bit noisy sometimes, which is why I have to do any of my videos either when they're napping. I say napping, but here lately they seem to just kind of lay in their beds and play with their toys. So sometimes even that can be noisy. But so I either have that time or I have at night after we've all gone to bed, and it's around 9:30 or 10 o'clock when I can start filming. So I am pretty limited on when I can film, which is why I haven't really been posting a whole lot of videos lately. I've just been trying to figure out what works best, just because my kids aren't napping during the day when they used to. Well, they're just not being quiet when I need quiet. So, and as with ASMR, you need your space to be like completely quiet. So, yeah, I just decided to film this video today, and maybe some of you will like it. the same. So the recipe I am making today, I got it from Pinterest. The author, I think, is Joe McLean, and the title of the recipe is Bakery Style Blueberry Muffins. I love me a good blueberry muffin. There's just nothing like it. So when I tasted these muffins for the first time, I knew that this recipe was definitely a keeper. So for the dry ingredients, which I already mixed up in the large bowl there, you have 2 cups of all-purpose flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, a half a teaspoon of baking soda, half a teaspoon of salt, 3/4 cups of sugar, and I actually mixed regular granulated sugar with brown sugar. I substituted that one time because I actually ran out of granulated sugar and I just used brown sugar for the rest, and it turned out so good. The brown sugar gives it a little bit more depth of flavor, and they were just so delicious. So now I do that every time when I make these muffins. So I just mixed all that together and set it aside, and now I'm doing the wet ingredients. And I am actually doubling this recipe because I like to keep a lot on hand, because we like to eat muffins for breakfast sometimes and just for snacks. And I know when I have my 2 stepchildren over who are, let's see, how old are they? They are 14 and 13. So when I have them over, they just eat like crazy. So I've got to make sure I have enough food for them and the rest of us. So I'm a big advocate of keeping like snacks of that sort on hand. So to the wet ingredients, it was 3/4 of a cup of buttermilk, and I use my cultured kefir milk or buttermilk. It's not the same thing as buttermilk, but it is pretty much a 1-1 substitution. Since it is cultured, it's completely fine to use that. And I always pretty much have my kefir milk on hand, so that's what I use in place of buttermilk in recipes. And to that, the recipe calls for half a cup of sour cream, but I actually did not have any sour cream when I filmed this, so I just omitted it. It's fine if you don't have it to just leave it out. All it does is just makes the muffins more dense. So the more fat you have in a baked good, the more dense it's going to be. So like your butter, sour cream, buttermilk, all that type of stuff. So we added half a cup of melted butter, some avocado oil. I used that instead. I have not tried the recipe with olive oil. I don't know if it would have the same end taste or not, but that's up to you. And then I also added some vanilla extract. It was 1 teaspoon for the regular size serving. But since I doubled the recipe, I added around 2 tablespoons. I'm sorry, 2 teaspoons. I actually may have added around 2 tablespoons because I don't really measure my vanilla extract, so. And the last ingredient is the blueberries, of course. So I just had frozen blueberries. I like my blueberries to be small. I don't like the big jumbo blueberries that they have like in the produce section of the grocery store. Those are a little too big for me. I like the, I can't remember what they're called, Waymans or something like that. They're the wild blueberries and they're a lot smaller. So those were frozen, and you could use frozen in this recipe. It says you can use fresh or frozen. But I had frozen, and I decided to thaw them out by running some cold water over them and then just letting them sit and drain off all the excess liquid. And yes, they are a bit mushy after that, after they've, of course, been frozen and then thawed out. But they did not bleed into the dough like they would have if they were frozen. So I was really happy about that. I have made this recipe before using them just straight out of the freezer, and the purple just mixed with the yellow dough, and it just made the whole muffin kind of turn into like a gray color. So that is something that you would need to watch out for if you do cook them. Or I'm sorry, if you do use them straight out of the freezer, you'll have the purple / blue color mixing with your color of the dough, and the end product won't look too appealing. So that's why I chose to thaw mine out. As you can see, the dough is staying pretty separate from the color of the blueberries, and it just gives you a much more pretty muffin, as you'll see in just a minute. And since I have the camera out, my kids are coming by to say hello.
Okay, go eat.
And just try to get into this camera screen. So yes, another trick to getting nice, pretty muffins is to overfill your muffin liners. The muffin liners that I'm using here are actually jumbo, but I think you could just use regular if that's all that you had, because the cups, the size of the cups in the pan are still the same, but I like to fill them up just below the top of the liner, and that way your muffins will get nice. They'll just be nice and big. You may have to bake them a little bit longer, but that's okay. What also helps is if you're baking muffins to chill your dough. So I did have this covered in the refrigerator while sometimes people say that their blueberries sink to the bottom of a muffin after they're baked. I did not have that problem with this recipe, but if you do try this recipe, maybe if you try it with frozen blueberries, there is a hack you can do. You can coat your blueberries in flour, and that should keep them from sinking to the very bottom. And here I'm just adding a very generous sprinkle of granulated sugar onto the tops of the muffins, which gives them a nice, firm, and almost crackly top. So, these are going to bake in a preheated oven for 425 degrees for the first around 10 minutes. And then after that is up, you turn the temperature of the oven down to 350, and then you bake them for an additional 20 or so minutes. So you can see these are nice and golden brown. It's basically how you can tell that your muffins are finished cooking, and also you can tell that they're finished cooking just by seeing if they still look wet. If they no longer look wet on the tops, then they are finished baking. So I just took them out of the pan immediately after they got finished baking, because I didn't want them to get soggy at all, and transferred them to the wire rack so that they can cool off. And since I am making a double batch here, I have a lot to stick in the freezer. What I do is just set the whole rack in my freezer so that they can freeze, and then I will transfer them to a freezer safe bag. I love freezing muffins and really any type of bread because they're so easy to just heat up, and they taste, after you do heat them up, they taste super fresh, like when you just made them. So the sooner that you can freeze like your bread items that you make in the freezer, when you go to heat them up and eat them, they'll taste like, basically like you just baked them. That's what's cool about freezing bread and muffins and that sort of thing. So you can make up a bunch at a time and just freeze them for a later time. And it's something that I like to do since, I'm getting all of the ingredients out anyways. I like to just go ahead and make up a double batch. That way I can have some snacks or some meals covered at a later time. And I can thank myself later for prepping a bunch of things at one time. So, I hope that you guys liked this video, and if you try out this recipe, let me know. And I'm just baking my second pan here. I didn't have as much batter as I did the first pan, but they still came out really good. And I actually forgot to film me putting the extra blueberries on the top and the sugar sprinkles on the top as well. but that's okay. You can see in the bowl there is just a little bit of flour at the bottom that I didn't get mixed up all the way. But that's okay, because you can just try to mix it back in with the batter that you have left. I always like to scrape my bowl with a spatula just so I can make sure that I get every single drop, which is so important. So then they go into the oven. And there they are. I hope you all enjoyed this cozy baking session with me in the kitchen today. Please let me know how you liked the video. If you liked having the background noises on, I can definitely turn them off if you like that as well. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, and y'all have a great